I was sitting in my office going over some paperwork when my phone buzzed. It was a call from a number I didn't recognize. Normally, I'd let it go to voicemail, but something made me pick up. "Hello? Is this Patrick?" a gruff voice asked. "Yes. Who is this?" "This is Detective Harris. I've got some information that you need to hear. If you are standing, you might want to sit down." My heart started to race. "What is going on?" "It is about your wife, Marlene. He's been seeing another man. And Patrick? This guy is bad news. He's seeing at least 12 different women a week in your wife, and up to 5 other women may be with him on the same day." The room spun. I grabbed the edge of my desk to steady myself. "Are you sure?" "Positive. We've been following him for a while. Your wife is just one of many. I thought you should know." I thanked the detective and hung up my mind, reeling. Marlene had always been a bit distant, but I never suspected she'd cheat. And with a guy like this, I felt sick. I could freeze all of her accounts and give them all hell, but I needed to see this for myself first. Marlene was due home in an hour. I had some time to think about my next move. Should I confront her, or should I gather more evidence first? I decided to do both. If she was lying to me, I wanted to catch her in the act. When Marlene walked through the door, I was ready. "Hey, honey," she said, dropping her bag by the door. "How was your day?" I forced a smile. "Fine. How about yours? Good? Just busy with errands and stuff." Lies. I knew she was lying, and it made my blood boil, but I played along. "That's good. You deserve some time to relax." She smiled and headed upstairs to change. I followed her, my heart pounding in my chest. "Marlene, we need to talk." She turned, her smile faltering. "About what?" "I know you've been seeing someone else. I got a call from a detective today." Her eyes widened and shocked, but she quickly recovered. "What are you talking about? Dante? Play dumb with me. I know about your lover and all the other women he is seeing. How could you do this to me?" Her face turned red with anger. "You don't know what you're talking about. You've always been paranoid." I stepped closer, my voice low and dangerous. "Don't you lie to me. I have proof." She glared at me, her eyes blazing with fury. "Fine. You want the truth?" "Yes, I've been seeing someone, but it's none of your business." I felt a surge of rage. "None of my business. We remarried." "Exactly. We were married, not dead. I'm tired of being your perfect little wife. I want excitement, passion, things you can give me." Her words cut deep, but I refused to let her see how much they hurt. "You are going to regret this, Marlene. I'm freezing all of our accounts and filing for divorce." She laughed bitterly. "Go ahead, see if I care." I stormed out of the room, my mind racing with thoughts of revenge. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Marlene was going to pay for her betrayal, and I was going to make sure of it. After Marlene's explosive confession, I was more determined than ever to get to the bottom of her affair. Freezing our accounts and filing for divorce were good first steps, but I wanted more. I wanted to know exactly what she'd been up to and who this guy was. I contacted Detective Harris again and arranged a meeting. We met at a small, discreet cafe downtown. The detective looked exactly as I imagined, rugged, with a no-nonsense demeanor. "Patrick," he greeted me with a nod. "I've got more information for you. Thanks for meeting me, Detective. I need to know everything." He nodded and slid a folder across the table. "This is all we've got on Marlene S. Lover. His name is Tony Romano. He has a real piece of work, a professional con artist who targets married women. He charms them, uses them, and then moves on to the next." I opened the folder and stared at the photos of Tony. He was handsome, with a roguish charm that probably drew women in like moths to a flame. My stomach turned as I saw pictures of him with different women, including Marlene. "Does Marlene know about his other women?" I asked, my voice tight with anger. "She is aware, but she doesn't care. This guy has a way of making women feel special, even when they know they're just one of many." I clenched my fists. How do I stop him? Detective Harris leaned back in his chair, studying me. "Tony is smart and cautious. You can confront him directly without solid evidence. But if we can catch him in the act, we can take him down for good." I nodded, my mind racing. "Whatever you need me to do, we have been monitoring his movements, but we need someone on the inside, someone he trusts. That S where you come in." I frowned. "You want me to spy on Marlene?" "Yes. If you can get close to her and gather information, we can use it against Tony. We need dates, times, places, anything that links him to his crimes." It was a risky plan, but I was willing to do whatever it took. "I'll do it." Detective Harris gave me a small, approving nod. Good. Here's a burner phone. Use it to contact me if you find anything. And Patrick, be careful. Tony S. Dangerous. I took the phone in the folder, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. It was time to go undercover and expose Marlene S. Lover for the fraud he was. Back at home, I tried to act normal around Marlene, even though it was the last thing I wanted to do. She was cold and distant, but I pretended not to notice. I started paying more attention to her phone calls, her texts, and her whereabouts. One evening, while Marlene was in the shower, I took her phone and quickly scrolled through her messages. Sure enough, there were dozens of texts from Tony. They were flirtatious, filled with promises and plans. My blood boiled as I read them, but I forced myself to stay calm. I took screenshots of the messages and sent them to the burner phone. Then I put her phone back where I found it and waited. The next few days were a blur of surveillance and secrecy. I followed Marlene to her errands, which were actually clandestine meetings with Tony. I took photos, recorded conversations, and documented everything. One night, Marlene left the house dressed to the nines. She claimed she was meeting some friends for dinner, but I knew better. I followed her to a fancy hotel and watched as she met Tony in the lobby. They disappeared into an elevator, and I knew exactly what was going on. I snapped several photos and sent them to Detective Harris. My phone buzzed with an incoming call almost immediately. "Good work, Patrick," Harris said. "This is exactly what we need. I'll start building the case against Tony. Keep gathering information, and we'll take him down soon." I hung up, feeling a mix of satisfaction and bitterness. Marlene's betrayal was almost too much to bear, but I knew I had to stay focused. The end was in sight, and I was going to make sure justice was served. As I drove home, I thought about what I would do next. Confronting Marlene again would only tip her off. Instead, I needed to play the long game and wait for the right moment to strike. The days that followed were filled with tension and deceit. Marlene continued to see Tony, oblivious to the fact that I was documenting her every move. I started freezing our accounts and putting other financial measures in place, preparing for the fallout. One afternoon, as I was gathering evidence, I received a call from Detective Harris. "Patrick, we've got enough to move forward. We are planning a sting operation to catch Tony in the act. Are you in?" I took a deep breath. This was it, the moment I'd been waiting for. I am in. Tell me what to do. The plan was set. In a few days, we would catch Tony red-handed, and Marlene would have no choice but to face the consequences of her actions. It was going to be an epic show, and I was ready to give them all hell. The plan was to set up a sting operation to catch Tony in the act. Detective Harris and his team had everything in place, but they needed my help to lure Marlene and Tony into the trap. I was nervous but determined. This was my chance to expose Tony for the fraud he was, and to finally confront Marlene with undeniable proof of her infidelity. I just had to play my part convincingly. The evening before the operation, I approached Marlene with a calm, nonchalant demeanor. "Hey, honey," I said, trying to sound casual. "I was thinking we could have a nice dinner out tomorrow night, just the two of us." She looked at me suspiciously. Why the sudden interest? "I've been thinking a lot about us," I said, forcing a smile. "I want to try and make things better." Marlene's eyes softened a bit, but I could see the doubt still lingering. "All right, where are we going?" "I made reservations at that new Italian place downtown," I said. "I thought it might be nice to get dressed up and enjoy a fancy dinner." She hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, that sounds nice." I spent the next day making sure everything was in place. Harris and his team were ready, and I had my phone on me at all times waiting for the signal. When the evening arrived, I dressed in my best suit and made sure to compliment Marlene on her appearance. She wore a sleek black dress that showed off her figure, and for a moment, I almost forgot why we were there. We arrived at the restaurant, and I kept up the charade, acting like everything was normal. We ordered wine and appetizers, and I made small talk, trying to keep her distracted. As we finished our main course, my phone buzzed with a text from Detective Harris at S-time. I took a deep breath and looked at Marlene. "I need to step outside for a moment. I'll be right back." She nodded, sipping her wine. I stood up and made my way to the restroom where I called Harris. "We are ready," he said. "We have got eyes on Tony. He's on his way to meet Marlene." "Perfect," I replied. "I'll bring her out." I returned to the table and forced a smile. "Ready to go?" Marlene looked at me curiously. "We haven't had dessert yet." I thought we could go for a walk, I suggested. There is a park nearby. It is a beautiful evening. She seemed hesitant, but agreed. We left the restaurant and strolled toward the park, the evening air cool and crisp. As we walked, I kept an eye out for Tony. Sure enough, I spotted him near a bench, looking around nervously. Marlene saw him too, and her face lit up with excitement. "Patrick, I need to tell you something," she said suddenly, stopping in her tracks. I turned to her, fainting surprise. "What is it?" Before she could answer, Tony appeared beside us. "Marlene," he said, reaching for her hand. I stepped back, my heart pounding. "What's going on?" Marlene's eyes darted between us, panic setting in. "Patrick, this is Tony. I'm sorry, but we are in love." I felt a surge of anger and betrayal, but I kept my cool. "Tony Romano, right?" I said, addressing him directly. Tony, eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" "I am her husband," I said coldly, "and I know all about you." Tony started to back away, but before he could get far, Detective Harris and his team swooped in, surrounding him. "Tony Romano, you are under arrest," Harris said, cuffing him. "You have the right to remain silent," Marlene gasped, turning to me in shock. "Patrick, what's happening?" I looked at her with a mixture of sadness and anger. "I told you, Marlene, I know everything." Harris pulled out his phone and played back the recordings I had sent him, the photos, the texts, the conversations. Marlene's face went pale as she realized the extent of my knowledge. "You betrayed me," I said, my voice trembling. "And for what? This guy? He's been seeing a dozen other women behind your back." Tears welled up in Marlene's eyes, but I had no sympathy left for her. "Patrick, please, I am so sorry." "It is too late for apologies," I said, shaking my head. "We are done. I am filing for divorce, and I am taking everything." Marlene collapsed onto the bench, sobbing uncontrollably. I turned away, unable to bear the sight of her any longer. Detective Harris placed a hand on my shoulder. "You did good, Patrick. We've got enough to put Tony away for a long time." I nodded, my heart heavy. "Thank you, Detective." As I walked away from the park, I felt a strange mix of emotions, relief, anger, sadness. Marlene's betrayal had shattered my world, but I was determined to rebuild it piece by piece. The sting operation was over, but the fallout was just beginning, and I was ready to face it head-on, no matter what it took. The days following the sting operation were a whirlwind of emotions and legal battles. I had to navigate through a sea of paperwork, court dates, and confrontations. Freezing Marlene's accounts had been the right move, but now I had to ensure that I got everything I deserved from our marriage. It was a process that took every ounce of my energy and patience. Marlene moved out of the house the day after Tony's arrest. She didn't have many options, and I made sure to change the locks immediately. She called me a few times, begging for forgiveness, but I ignored her. Each time it was the same empty promises and apologies. I had no room left in my heart for her lies. I focused on my work, diving into projects and putting in extra hours to keep my mind off the chaos in my personal life. My boss, understanding of my situation, allowed me the flexibility I needed to attend meetings with my lawyer and court appearances. One evening, I was at home, sifting through a stack of legal documents when my phone rang. It was my sister, Carly. "Hey, Patrick," she said, her voice filled with concern. "How are you holding up?" I sighed, leaning back in my chair. "It's been tough, Carly, but I'm getting through it." "I can't believe Marlene did this to you," she said, anger creeping into her voice. She always seemed so perfect. "Yeah, well." "Appearances can be deceiving," I replied bitterly. "Listen, I want you to know that Mom and Dad are here for you too. We all are. We don't have to go through this alone." "Thanks, Carly. I appreciate it." We talked for a while longer, and it felt good to have someone on my side. My family had been supportive, even if they didn't fully understand the depth of my pain. They knew Marlene had cheated, but they didn't know about the extent of her deceit and the danger Tony posed. A few weeks later, I got a call from Detective Harris. "Patrick, we've got some updates on Tony's case. Can you come down to the station?" I agreed and drove to the station, my mind racing with possibilities. When I arrived, Harris greeted me with a firm handshake. "Tony has been charged with multiple counts of fraud and is looking at serious prison time," he said, leading me to his office. "But there is more. We found evidence that he was planning to drain your accounts and skip town with Marlene." My blood ran cold. "What kind of evidence?" Harris handed me a folder. Inside were emails and texts between Tony and Marlene discussing their plans. They talked about taking my money and starting a new life together. I felt a wave of nausea. She knew about this? Harris nodded. It looks that way. She was complicit in his schemes. I clenched my fists, trying to control my anger. What happens now? Well, with the evidence we have, we can charge her as an accessory to his crimes. It is up to you if you want to pursue that. I thought about it. Part of me wanted her to pay for what she'd done to see her face the consequences of her actions, but another part of me just wanted to move on and leave this nightmare behind. I need some time to think about it, I said finally. Take all the time you need, Harris replied. Just know that we have got your back. I left the station feeling more conflicted than ever. Marlene's betrayal ran deeper than I had imagined, and the thought of her facing criminal charges was both satisfying and heartbreaking. That evening, as I sat in my empty house, I realized that I needed to start thinking about my future. I couldn't let Marlene and Tony's actions define me. I had to rebuild my life, find new purpose, and move on. I decided to take a few days off work and visit my parents. They lived a few hours away, and I needed a change of scenery. I packed a bag, left a message for my boss, and hit the road. When I arrived at my parents' house, my mom greeted me with a warm hug. "It's so good to see you, Patrick. How are you doing?" I managed a small smile. "I am hanging in there, Mom." My dad clapped me on the back. "We were proud of you, son. You were handling this like a champ." We spent the weekend talking, laughing, and reminiscing about better times. It was exactly what I needed, a reminder that I had people who loved me and believed in me. For my last day there, Carly pulled me aside. "Patrick, have you thought about what you're going to do next?" "I'm not sure," I admitted. "I need to figure things out." "Well, whatever you decide, we are here for you," she said, squeezing my hand. Back home, I started making plans. I decided to sell the house. It held too many painful memories. I contacted a real estate agent and began the process of putting it on the market. I also started looking for a new place, somewhere to start fresh. One afternoon, as I was packing up some boxes, I received a call from my lawyer. "Patrick, we've got a court date for the divorce proceedings. It'll less than 2 weeks. "Thanks, Dave," I said. "I'll be ready." The court date approached quickly, and I prepared myself for the confrontation with Marlene. I knew it would be tough, but I was determined to see it through. On the day of the hearing, I walked into the courtroom with my head held high. Marlene was already there, looking anxious and pale. She glanced at me, her eyes filled with a mix of regret and defiance. The judge called the court to order, and the proceedings began. My lawyer presented our case detailing Marlene's infidelity and her involvement with Tony. Marlene's lawyer tried to downplay her actions, but the evidence was overwhelming. It was Marlene's turn to speak. She stood up, her voice trembling. "Your Honor, I made a terrible mistake. I was lonely and vulnerable, and Tony took advantage of that. I am truly sorry for what I did to Patrick. I never meant to hurt him." Her words rang hollow in my ears. I knew she was only sorry because she'd been caught. The judge listened carefully, then delivered the verdict. "Given the evidence presented, I am granting the divorce. Marlene, you'll receive no financial support from Patrick. You are also required to pay back the money you conspired to take." Marlene's face crumpled, and she sank back into her seat, sobbing quietly. I felt a sense of relief wash over me. It was finally over. As I left the courtroom, I took a deep breath and looked up at the clear blue sky. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful. I was free from Marlene's lies and ready to rebuild my life, one step at a time. After the divorce was finalized, I felt an enormous weight lift off my shoulders. The house sold quickly, and I found a cozy apartment downtown that suited my new, simpler lifestyle. It was a fresh start, away from the memories that haunted me in our old home. The first few weeks in my new place were a mixture of loneliness and relief. I missed the familiarity of my old life, but I relished the freedom from the constant tension and deceit. I threw myself into work, taking on new projects and setting ambitious goals to keep my mind occupied. One evening, I decided to join a local gym. Exercise had always been a good way for me to clear my head, and I needed something to fill the void left by the chaos of the past few months. The gym was a bustling, energetic place, and it felt good to be around people again, even if I wasn't ready to engage with them just yet. I quickly fell into a routine work, gym, home. It was predictable, but it gave me a sense of stability that I desperately needed. I was starting to find my footing when I received an unexpected message on social media. "Hey, Patrick, it's been a long time. How are you holding up?" It was from Emily, an old friend from college. We hadn't spoken in years, but we'd always been close. Seeing her message brought a smile to my face. "Hey, Emily, it is good to hear from you. I am doing okay, all things considered. How about you?" We exchanged messages over the next few days, catching up on each other's lives. Emily had moved back to town a few months ago and was working as a graphic designer. She suggested we meet up for coffee, and I agreed, eager to reconnect with someone who knew me before my life fell apart. When I walked into the cafe, I spotted Emily immediately. She looked just like I remembered, warm, friendly, and full of life. We hugged, and it felt like no time had passed at all. "Patrick, it's so good to see you," she said, smiling. "How have you been?" I shrugged, trying to keep things light. "It has been a rough year, but I am managing. What about you? How is life treating you?" We spent hours talking, laughing, and reminiscing about our college days. It was exactly what I needed, a reminder that there was life beyond the betrayal and heartache I'd been through. As we parted ways, Emily gave me a warm hug. "Let's not wait so long to catch up next time," she said. "I like that," I replied, feeling a flicker of hope. Over the next few weeks, Emily and I started spending more time together. We went out for dinners, attended local events, and even started a weekly hiking tradition. It felt good to have someone to talk to, someone who genuinely cared about me and my well-being. One evening, after a particularly long hike, we sat on a bench overlooking the city. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over everything. Emily turned to me, her expression serious. "Patrick, I've been thinking a lot about us," she said. "I know you've been through a lot, and I don't want to rush things, but I really enjoy spending time with you." I looked at her, feeling a mix of emotions. "I feel the same way, Emily, but I'm still healing. I don't want to hurt you or bring any of my baggage into something new." She nodded, understanding. "I get it. We can take things slow, no pressure, no expectations. Let's just see where things go." For the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of peace. Emily was patient and kind, and being with her felt natural. As the weeks turned into months, our bond grew stronger. She helped me see that there was life after betrayal, and that I could find happiness again. One day, as we were preparing dinner together, Emily turned to me with a mischievous grin. "You know, I've been thinking, how about we take a weekend trip, just the two of us? A change of scenery might do us both some good." I smiled, feeling a sense of excitement I hadn't felt in a long time. "That sounds like a great idea. Where should we go?" "We could head to the mountains," she suggested. "Rent a cabin, do some hiking, and just relax." It sounded perfect. We planned the trip for the following weekend, and as the days passed, I found myself looking forward to it more and more. It felt like the beginning of something new, a chance to build a future free from the shadows of my past. The trip was everything I hoped it would be. We hiked during the day, exploring trails and taking in the breathtaking views. In the evenings, we sat by the fire, talking about our dreams and aspirations. For the first time in a long time, I felt genuinely happy. On the last night of our trip, as we sat by the fire, Emily reached for my hand. "Patrick, I want you to know how much I care about you. I know things haven't been easy, but I am here for you, no matter what." I looked into her eyes, feeling a surge of emotion. "Thank you, Emily. You've been a rock for me through all of this. I don't know what I did do without you." She smiled, leaning in to kiss me. It was a gentle, tender kiss that spoke of hope and new beginnings. As we sat there, wrapped in each other as arms, I realized that I was ready to move on. The past was behind me, and the future looked brighter than ever. The trip marked a turning point in our relationship. Emily and I grew closer, and I found myself opening up to her in ways I hadn't with anyone else. She helped me see that my life wasn't defined by Marlene's betrayal, but by how I chose to move forward. With Emily by my side, I felt stronger and more confident. We supported each other through the ups and downs, and our relationship flourished. It wasn't always easy, but it was worth it. One evening, as we were watching a movie at her place, Emily turned to me with a serious expression. "Patrick, I've been thinking, how would you feel about moving in together?" The question took me by surprise, but I felt a surge of excitement. "I loved that, Emily. It feels right." We spent the next few weeks making plans and merging our lives. Moving in together was a big step, but it felt natural. We created a home filled with love, laughter, and support. As the months passed, I realized how far I'd come. Marlene and Tony were distant memories, and I had built a new life with Emily. She taught me to trust again, to believe in love and happiness. One evening, as we were having dinner, Emily took my hand. "Patrick, I want you to know how much you mean to me. You've brought so much joy into my life, and I can imagine it without you." I squeezed her hand, feeling a lump in my throat. "You mean the world to me too, Emily? You've helped me heal and find happiness again." She smiled, her eyes shining with love. "Here's to our future, Patrick. May it be filled with love and adventure." As we raised our glasses, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. My life had taken unexpected turns, but it had led me to this moment. With Emily by my side, I was ready to embrace whatever the future held. The decision to move in together brought Emily and me even closer. We spent weekends decorating our new apartment, making it our own. It was a blend of both our styles, her love for vibrant colors, and my preference for sleek, modern lines. It felt like a true partnership, each of us contributing to create something beautiful. One sunny Saturday, as we were rearranging furniture, Emily paused and looked at me with a playful grin. "You know what we need?" I raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" "A pet," she said, her eyes twinkling. "A dog, maybe. Someone to keep us company and add some more life to this place." I laughed. "That sounds like a great idea. Let's do it." We visited a local animal shelter the next day and found the perfect companion of friendly Labrador mix with a wagging tail and soulful eyes. We named him Max, and he quickly became a beloved member of our little family. If with Emily and Max was a joy, we spent weekends exploring local parks, taking Max on long walks and enjoying picnics under the sun. Our home was filled with laughter and warmth, a stark contrast to the turmoil of my past. Work was going well, too. I had received a promotion and was now managing a team of talented individuals. The challenges were invigorating, and I found myself thriving in the new role. My colleagues were supportive, and I felt a sense of accomplishment that had been missing for a long time. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at work, I came home to find Emily and Max waiting for me with a surprise. Emily had prepared a delicious dinner and the table was set with candles and flowers. "What is all this?" I asked, smiling as I hugged her. "I just wanted to do something special for you," she said, kissing me on the cheek. "You've been working so hard, and I am so proud of you." He sat down to dinner, and as we talked and laughed, I realized how much Emily had changed my life. She had brought light into my darkest days and helped me find happiness again. As we finished dessert, Emily reached across the table and took my hand. "Patrick, there is something I want to talk to you about." I looked at her, curious. "What is it?" She took a deep breath, her eyes serious. "I have been thinking a lot about our future. I love you, and I can imagine my life without you. I want to take the next step with you." My heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" She smiled, her eyes shining. "I want us to get married." The words hung in the air, and for a moment I was speechless. But then a wave of emotion washed over me, and I realized that it was exactly what I wanted to. "Emily," I said, my voice filled with love, "I can think of anything I'd love more. Let's do it." He threw her arms around me, and we both laughed, tears of happiness streaming down our faces. It was a perfect moment, one that I knew I would cherish forever. We spent the next few months planning our wedding. It was a small, intimate affair, held in a beautiful garden surrounded by our closest friends and family. The day was filled with love and joy, and as I stood at the altar looking into Emily's eyes, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. Our vows were simple but heartfelt. "Emily, you've shown me what true love is," I said, my voice steady. "You've stood by me through the toughest times and brought joy into my life. I promise to love you, support you, and cherish you for the rest of our lives." She smiled, her eyes filled with tears. "Patrick, you are my rock, my partner, and my best friend. I promise to stand by you to share in your joys and sorrows and to love you unconditionally." As we exchanged rings and sealed our vows with a kiss, I knew that this was the beginning of a beautiful new chapter. Our pasts had shaped us, but our love would define our future. After the ceremony, we celebrated with our loved ones, dancing under the stars and enjoying every moment. It was a night of pure happiness, a testament to the strength of our love and the resilience of the human spirit. The months that followed were a whirlwind of new experiences and adventures. Emily and I traveled, exploring new places and creating memories that would last a lifetime. We continued to build our life together, supporting each other's dreams and finding joy in the everyday moments. One morning, as we sat on our balcony sipping coffee, Emily turned to me with a smile. "Patrick, I have some news." I looked at her, curious. "What is it?" She took my hand, her eyes sparkling. "We are going to have a baby." The words took a moment to sink in, but when they did, I felt a surge of joy like never before. "Emily, that is amazing. I am so happy." We embraced, tears of happiness streaming down our faces. The journey we had been on, filled with its ups and downs, had led us to this beautiful moment. Our love had created a new life, and I couldn't wait to start this new chapter together. As we prepared for the arrival of our baby, I reflected on how far I had come. The pain of the past had been replaced with a profound sense of joy and fulfillment. Emily had shown me that it was possible to find love and happiness again, and together we had built a life filled with promise and hope. The day our baby was born was the happiest of my life. Holding our little one in my arms, I felt a sense of completeness that I had never known before. Emily and I looked at each other, and I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. Life had taken unexpected turns, but it had led me to this beautiful place. With Emily by my side and our baby in my arms, I felt ready to embrace whatever the future held. Our journey was just beginning, and I knew that with love and resilience, we could overcome anything. As I lay awake that night, listening to the gentle breaths of our newborn, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. The road had been long and difficult, but it had brought me to this moment of pure happiness. I had found love, joy, and a sense of purpose, and I knew that the best was yet to come. The arrival of our baby, a beautiful girl we named Lily, brought a new kind of joy and chaos into our lives. Emily and I were in awe of this tiny, perfect human we had created together. Every coo, every little smile, and even every sleepless night felt like a gift. The early days of parenthood were a whirlwind. There were sleepless nights, countless diaper changes, and moments of sheer exhaustion. But there were also those magical moments holding Lily as she slept, watching her tiny fingers grasp ours, and seeing the pure love in Emily's eyes as she looked at our daughter. Emily and I quickly found our rhythm as parents. We took turns with night feedings, supported each other through the rough patches, and celebrated every little milestone Lily reached. Our love for each other grew even stronger as we navigated this new chapter together. One evening, as Emily was rocking Lily to sleep, I sat on the couch, reflecting on how much my life had changed in the past year. From the depths of betrayal and heartbreak, I had emerged stronger, with a new sense of purpose and a family that filled my heart with joy. Emily joined me on the couch, gently placing a sleeping Lily in her crib. She leaned her head on my shoulder and sighed contentedly. "Can you believe how much our lives have changed?" she whispered. I smiled, kissing the top of her head. "It has been a wild ride, but I wouldn't change a thing. You and Lily are everything to me." Emily looked up at me, her eyes filled with love. "You are everything to us too, Patrick. We are so lucky to have you." As the weeks turned into months, we settled into our roles as parents. I took on more responsibilities at work, knowing that I was providing for our growing family. Emily decided to take a break from her graphic design job to focus on Lily, a decision we both wholeheartedly supported. One sunny afternoon, we decided to take Lily to the park for the first time. We packed a picnic, grabbed the stroller, and headed out. The park was bustling with families, children playing, and couples enjoying the warm weather. It felt like the perfect place to create new memories. We found a shady spot under a large oak tree and spread out a blanket. Emily and I watched as Lily explored the grass, her tiny hands reaching for anything she could grab. Her giggles filled the air, and we couldn't help but join in her laughter. As we sat there enjoying our picnic and watching Lily play, I felt a deep sense of contentment. This was what life was all about, these simple, beautiful moments with the people I loved most. Later, as we walked around the park pushing Lily and her stroller, we ran into an old friend from college, Jake. He was there with his wife and 2 young children. We hadn't seen each other in years, and it was a pleasant surprise. "Patrick, Emily, it is so great to see you," Jake exclaimed, pulling us into a hug. "And who's this little cutie?" "This is our daughter, Lily," I said proudly, smiling down at her. Make's wife, Sarah, smiled warmly. "She's adorable. Congratulations, you two." We spent the next hour catching up, reminiscing about old times and sharing stories about parenthood. It felt good to reconnect with old friends and see how everyone's lives had evolved. As we said our goodbyes, Jake turned to me with a serious expression. "Patrick, I'm really happy for you. You've come a long way since." "Well, you know?" I nodded, understanding what he meant. "Thanks, Jake. It's been a journey, but I'm in a good place now." He smiled, clapping me on the back. "That's all that matters. Take care, buddy." As we walked back to the car, Emily looked at me with a thoughtful expression. "Do you ever think about the past, Patrick? About everything that happened with Marlene?" I sighed, considering her question. "Sometimes. It's hard not to, but it doesn't haunt me like it used to. I've moved on and I'm happy now. You and Lily are my present and my future." Emily smiled, squeezing my hand. "I'm glad to hear that. We are so lucky to have you, Patrick." The days turned into weeks and life settled into a comfortable routine. Emily and I watched in amazement as Lily grew, reaching new milestones and developing her own little personality. She was curious and adventurous, always exploring and learning new things. One evening, as we were putting Lily to bed, Emily turned to me with a mischievous grin. "You know, Patrick, we've been talking about taking a vacation. I think it's time we make it happen." I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Oh? Where do you have in mind?" "I was thinking somewhere warm and relaxing, maybe a beach trip. It would be a nice getaway for all of us." I smiled, feeling a surge of excitement. "That sounds perfect. Let us do it." We spent the next few weeks planning our trip, booking flights and accommodations and making a list of things to pack. It felt good to have something to look forward to, a chance to create new memories and enjoy some much-needed relaxation. The day finally arrived and we boarded the plane, filled with anticipation. Lily was fascinated by the whole experience, her wide eyes taking in everything around her. As the plane took off, I held Emily S.'s hand, feeling a sense of adventure and excitement. We arrived at our destination, a beautiful beachside resort, and immediately felt the stress melt away. The sun was shining, the ocean was a brilliant blue, and the gentle sound of waves crashing against the shore was incredibly soothing. We spent our days lounging by the pool, building sand castles with Lily, and exploring the local area. In the evenings, we enjoyed romantic dinners by the beach, watching the sunset and feeling grateful for the life we had built together. One evening, as we sat on the balcony of our hotel room, watching the stars twinkle in the sky, Emily turned to me with a contented sigh. "This is perfect, Patrick. I couldn't ask for anything more." I smiled, wrapping my arm around her. "Me neither. This is everything I have ever wanted." We sat in comfortable silence, enjoying the peacefulness of the moment. As I looked out at the ocean, I realized how far I had come. The pain and betrayal of the past were distant memories, replaced by the love and joy of my new life. With Emily and Lily by my side, I felt ready to face whatever the future held. Our journey together was just beginning, and I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, with love and resilience. The vacation was a turning point for us. It reaffirmed our commitment to each other and strengthened our bond as a family. We returned home feeling refreshed and more connected than ever. Life continued to be filled with its ups and downs, but we faced each challenge with courage and determination. Emily and I supported each other through everything, and our love only grew stronger. As the years passed, we watched Lily grow into a bright, curious, and loving child. She brought so much joy into our lives, and we cherished every moment with her. Our family was our greatest treasure, and we never took a single day for granted. One evening, as we were tucking Lily into bed, she looked up at us with wide eyes. "Mommy, Daddy, will you always be with me?" Emily smiled, brushing a strand of hair from Lily's forehead. "Always, sweetheart. We will always be here for you." Lily smiled, closing her eyes. "I love you, Mommy and Daddy. We love you too, Lily." I whispered, feeling a swell of emotion. As we left her room, Emily took my hand. "We've come a long way, Patrick, and we've created something truly beautiful." I nodded, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. Yes, we have, and I wouldn't change a thing. As we stood there, hand in hand, I realized that the journey we had been on had shaped us into the people we were today. It had brought us closer together and taught us the true meaning of love and resilience. With Emily and Lily by my side, I knew that no matter what the future held, we would face it together with courage, love, and unwavering support. Our story was one of redemption, healing, and the power of love, and it was a story that I would cherish forever. Life was settling into a peaceful routine. Emily, Lily, Max, and I had formed a close-knit family, and our days were filled with laughter, love, and the occasional chaos that comes with raising a young child. You were happy, and the past seemed like a distant memory. One day, as I was working from home, Emily came into my office, her face pale and eyes wide with concern. "Patrick, I need to talk to you." I immediately set my work aside, my heart pounding. "What's wrong?" "It is about Lily," she said, her voice trembling. "I took her to the pediatrician for her regular checkup, and they found something." A wave of fear washed over me. "What did they find?" "They think she might have a heart condition," Emily said, tears welling up in her eyes. "They want to run more tests to be sure." My mind raced, and I felt a lump form in my throat. "When are the tests tomorrow?" she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. I pulled her into a hug, trying to reassure her even though I was terrified myself. "We'll get through this, Emily. We'll do whatever it takes to make sure Lily is okay." The next day, we took Lily to the hospital for the tests. The waiting was excruciating, and Emily and I held hands, drawing strength from each other. When the doctor finally came in with the results, we braced ourselves for the news. "Lily has a congenital heart defect," the doctor explained gently. "It was a condition she has had since birth, but it hasn't shown symptoms until now. The good news is that it is treatable with surgery." The relief was palpable, but the thought of our little girl undergoing surgery was terrifying. "What do we need to do?" I asked, my voice steady, despite the fear gnawing at me. The doctor explained the procedure and assured us that Lily was in good hands. The surgery was scheduled for the following week, and we spent the days leading up to it trying to stay positive and strong for Lily. On the day of the surgery, we were a bundle of nerves. We stayed by Lily aside until it was time for her to go into the operating room. Emily and I held each other, praying for a successful outcome. Hours later, the doctor came out with a reassuring smile. "The surgery went well. Lily is a strong little girl, and she's going to be just fine." Tears of relief streamed down our faces, and we thanked the doctor profusely. We were allowed to see Lily in the recovery room, and seeing her peaceful face, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. The weeks following the surgery were focused on Lily's recovery. Emily and I took turns staying home with her, making sure she had everything she needed. Our friends and family were incredibly supportive, bringing us meals and offering to help in any way they could. One evening, as Lily was sleeping soundly in her bed, Emily and I sat on the couch, exhausted but relieved. "He made it through this," Emily said, her voice filled with emotion. "Lily is going to be okay." I nodded, feeling a surge of love for my wife. "We did it together, Emily. I couldn't have done this without you." She smiled, leaning her head on my shoulder. "We are a team, Patrick, and we all face whatever challenges come our way." As time passed, Lily grew stronger and life slowly returned to normal. She was back to her playful, energetic self, and we were grateful for every moment we had with her. The experience had brought Emily and me even closer, reinforcing the bond we shared. One sunny afternoon, we decided to take Lily to the zoo. It was her first outing since the surgery, and she was beyond excited. We spent the day exploring, watching Lily's eyes light up as she saw the animals and marveled at the sights and sounds. As we sat down for a picnic lunch, Emily looked at me with a contented smile. "You know, Patrick, I've been thinking a lot about our future. This experience with Lily has reminded me how precious life is." I nodded, understanding what she meant. It has. It has made me realize how important it is to cherish every moment and not take anything for granted. She took my hand, her eyes shining with love. I want to make the most of our time together, to create more beautiful memories with you and Lily. Me too, Emily, I said, squeezing her hand. Let's make every moment count. As the years went by, we did just that. We traveled, explored new places, and experienced new adventures. We made sure to capture every memory, taking countless photos and videos that we could look back on and cherish. One day, as I was organizing our photo albums, I came across a picture of Emily and me on our wedding day. I smiled, remembering how far we had come and how much we had overcome together. Emily walked into the room and saw me looking at the photo. She came over and wrapped her arms around me. "Remember that day?" she asked, her voice filled with nostalgia. "How could I forget?" I replied, smiling. "It was the beginning of our incredible journey." She kissed me on the cheek. "We've been through so much, but we've come out stronger because of it." "We have," I agreed, and I wouldn't trade any of it for the world. As we stood there looking at the photo and reminiscing about our journey, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. Our lives had been filled with ups and downs, but we had faced every challenge together with love and resilience. With Emily and Lily by my side, I knew that we could handle anything that came our way. Our story was one of strength, love, and unwavering support, and I was excited to see what the future held for us.